Namaskar. My name is Dr. Raji Ajwani Ramchandani. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow and a project coordinator at IIT Bombay in India. I'm very happy to share my research with you today. It's called Towards a Circular Economy for Packaging Waste Using New Technologies, the case of large multinationals and emerging economies. Um, we see plastic everywhere. It's a part of our daily life. We use it for packaging, we use it for saving food, we use it for extending the life of a product. It's everywhere, it's ubiquitous, but there's just too much of it. It clogs our water bodies, pollutes our land, and we can see it flying in bushes, trees. So this miracle material is, we need to manage it well. This is a very common sight in Indian cities and also in rural parts of India, where you can see heaps of recyclables, bottles, wrappers, packets, and people sitting and manually sorting. It's estimated there are about 5 million waste pickers in India. This data is not accurate because they belong to the informal sector. Most of them are women and children, and they perform a very valuable role in recycling plastic by actually manually scavenging the waste and preventing these materials from going into the landfill. In this table, you can see that India is right on top as far as total plastic waste generation is concerned, just after United States. And if you see the table on the right, you will see that all the major brands are present in India, all the top names, be it sodas, chips, candies, they're all there, which means just a lot of choices, a lot of convenience, but also a lot of waste. So the research question is that if plastic is such a critical problem, but at the same time it's so ubiquitous in our life, what are the fundamental and societal changes we need to make to tackle this issue? So that was the question that we were trying to solve. And also we found that uh, before the sale, the packaging is owned by the brand owner. But the moment the sale is concluded, the packaging is completely disowned by the brand owner. And then it becomes the responsibility of the civic authority to find ways and means to tackle that waste. A quick review of literature. Stakeholder theory: stakeholders, any group of individuals affected by the achievements of the firm's objectives. It defends, the stakeholder theory defends the need to be socially responsible, um, and subsidiaries of MNEs suffer from the liability of foreigners. Now, why MNEs? Because if you recall, in the previous slide, practically the entire table was filled with brands owned by MNEs. So they suffer from a liability of foreigners, and however, MNEs typically come to emerging economies in search of resources, in search of new consumers, markets, in the need with the purpose of diversifying their risk, and also because they are able to take advantage of some of the institutional voids that exist in these economies. Packaging waste is one such example, at least in the context of the Indian economy. So what is circular economy? Circular economy can be viewed as a closed loop regenerative system in which we are using resources to their maximum capacity, extending their life, narrowing material and energy loops. A very good example is Earth, is nature. One creature's waste becomes another creature's food, and if we are part of nature, then typically our lifestyle should be such that we leave as less a negative footprint as possible. It is supposed to be one of the most important sustainable development contexts, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And recycling is considered important to reduce post-consumer and packaging waste. However, I must caution here that there seems to be sometimes a preconceived notion that recycling can solve all our problems. That is, no matter how much we consume, as long as we recycle it, it's going to take care of the waste. But that's not true, because recycling also uses up resources. It also generates waste. So what needs to be done is to go back to the source and see how much of the consumption is really needed, and is there any way that either we can reduce consumption or consume differently. So what is the research gap? Typically, in the context of emerging economies, there is a greater emphasis on the social dimension, which is typically lacking in most literature pertaining to circular economy, because this emanates from developed nations. In case of emerging economies, you have small land masses tightly packed with people trying to coexist, a lot of stress between the people and the environment. And if this social dimension is not addressed satisfactorily, chances are the environmental piece will also be encroached on. And still, in the context of emerging economies, we are stuck in the uh, context of waste management. We have not yet transitioned to the circular economy where we are looking at waste as a resource. Now, why India? Because there's a large pool, there's a what we call a demographic dividend. We have all the major brands available, English speaking, literate population, just one click away from gratification. Institutional voids, the perfect storm. A review of literature, according to Stahl, uses of technology such as Internet of Things and Industry 4 can enable a shift from a linear, that is your take make waste approach, to a closed circular approach. And a more recent study has concluded that the intersection of circular economy and digital technologies is at a pre-paradigmatic stage. So that means potential to explore the role of these technologies in enabling a shift towards circular economy. And why should MNEs take notice? Because consumers are taking notice, they're becoming more aware, we have access to the internet, you have consumer groups, news is translated, conveyed. Once something, an episode that can dent the brand equity can take a very long time to fix. Governments are becoming increasingly more conscious. The EU Green Deal is a good example of how an entire continent is leveraging its energies and trying to move towards a more sustainable and inclusive approach. And these are examples, like not just California, but in India, if you see that the Central Pollution Control Board has imposed fines on some of the major brands that you saw on the earlier table today. Waste pickers from India sent bagfuls of soiled sanitary napkins. Why? Because in India, the sanitary waste is discarded along with the household waste. Now, this causes a couple of problems. Firstly, the sanitary waste, when it comes in contact with recyclables such as your bottles, things that can be sold, those items become useless because the human waste and fluids transfer onto the recyclables. Second is that they're also dangerous for the waste pickers because they come in contact with human fluids and body waste. Now, a lot of nations like Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Vietnam have turned back consignments of mixed waste that have been sent to them by developed nations. In fact, China started upended the market when it announced its national sword policy, where it refused to take in plastic which was coming from developed countries. Now, in the Indian context, we have solid waste guidelines. I'm not going to go into great details here because that's a session in itself, but they were notified in 2016 after a gap of 20 years. And these guidelines mandate that bulk waste generators, that is generators, those who produce more than 100 kgs of mixed waste every day, need to manage their own waste, and brand owners need to work with civic authorities in order to help with this process. And makers of sanitary waste need to provide pouches in which the sanitary waste can be thrown. Like I said earlier, the EU Green Deal also has similar areas where it's talking about eliminating single-use plastic, circular economy, sustainable development, not just in EU, but also in terms of sourcing, also to be practiced by companies that are headquartered in the EU. What we did was we studied this issue from 2018 to 2020 through semi-structured. So primary data was collected using semi-structured interviews, observations, 45 interviews with more than that, with various stakeholders, more than 150 photographs, 20 clips, 5 workshops. These are just few glimpses of those activities. Secondary data was gleaned from articles, journal papers, reports, published sources. We also, in order to get an in-depth idea, studied 2 cases. one belonging to Roseland Residency. So this is a community of about 4,000 residents. So it's like a little town in itself, and they run their operations through the membership maintenance amount that is collected from the members. And they have won several awards, including the first community in India to win the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Clean India Swachh Bharat Award. They have started off with waste segregation, and then gradually one thing led to the other. So the food waste is composted, that is in turn used for gardening. Now they have come up with an urban garden where they grow their fruits and vegetables. They have rainwater harvesting, sewage water is treated, used for gardening. Excess compost is given to farmers who want it. There's tree plantation, more than 5,000 plants, bird feeders, water for birds. They also have solar energy. They have LED lights. So it is like one thing led to the other. They also have a lot of initiatives on the social front. So they undertake drives twice a year wherein they collect household items, clothes, give it to the poor. They have a COVID care center in the premises, which has been put up because of the fact that Maharashtra was one of the worst affected states in India for COVID. There has been more than 100,000 lives lost in the last 1 year, 26,000 lives lost only in May 2021. So this COVID care center came in very handy because there were absolutely no beds available. Free vaccination, not only for residents, but also for the labor staff that works here. The other case was right across from Roseland, another community that got inspired because of the success seen by Roseland, which has again about 4,000 residents, and they too segregate their waste. They have solar energy. What they do, which is interesting, is they have an incineration facility where they incinerate their sanitary napkins so that they don't leave, the premises, and there's less chance of them being mixed with other waste. Now, what were the findings? That there was a property tax waiver scheme which was introduced by the civic authority, which actually prompted people to look at moving towards a circular approach. Now, that also helped in changing or developing positive attitudinal changes from not in my backyard to for my future generations approach. Children were involved in these activities, and this also led to grassroots innovations. So in terms of in case of Roseland, it was putting up aerobic sheds which were fabricated by them by giving their own design instead of buying ready-made options which were far more expensive. Now, like I said, the sustainability journey is not a one-off, but it's a continuous process. And they felt that they were spending for it through the funds they were raising through maintenance amount. While the property tax incentive helped, but it was subjective. uh, Undertaking sustainability initiatives also helped the property prices go up. And in all these both these cases, the brand owners wanted to work with the civic authorities. However, they felt that marketing linkages were required to help them market the compost, and there was limited use of technology, mainly for accounting, and social media was used extensively for communicating with members. Now, where can these technologies, emerging technologies, be used? Mobile app for tracking the daily waste, GPS for vehicle monitoring, blockchain in a trustless environment for keeping the data of the waste, as well as for using features such as smart contracts, wherein recoveries from brand owners can be undertaken, and this data can be placed in a way that is available depending, upon the access rights given to various bodies of stakeholders. So it could be civic authorities, it could be brand owners who want to see how much they have been charged, why they have been charged, homeowners who are, the performing the task of creating and segregating this waste, activists, auditors, anyone. Artificial intelligence, which can have enable the segregation of waste without manual intervention. So this can prevent waste pickers from coming in contact with contaminated waste such as sanitary waste and now COVID waste, which is also getting discarded along with household waste. And database management systems for storing this data. So this model that you see, in this model, if you see, I've shown households where two bin and a bag model is used. So one bin is used for the food waste or the organic waste. One bin is used for the recyclable waste, and the bag is used for hazardous waste. Now, what can be done is through an app, you can screen right at the household level. If there is any wrong segregation, that particular household can be intimidated there itself. Smart contracts can help charge brand owners. The recyclables can, on the right, as you can see, they can be reused. This data can be put on a database management software, and this whole thing can be ring fenced using blockchain, and you can have chargebacks. So that way the waste generators know, get the data of the waste that's being generated. They don't have to use their membership funds in order to pay for the waste segregation. Civic authorities don't need to pay taxes in order to manage the waste. It's estimated that almost 40 to 50% of taxes collected are go in managing waste. So brand owners can be made and to pay for the waste. This will also lead to other innovations. So for example, it could lead to looking or revisiting packaging, uh, introduction of incentives for consumers to buy without packaging, consumers leveraging their aggregation, power of aggregation to negotiate better deals, um, incentives for a long-term waste segregation. So a lot of, and maybe some guidelines for e-commerce, because e-commerce is a very popular distribution option in India now, and it has become more so after COVID. Now this case studies, or this study has its limitations, because we have looked at one geography, that is India, and within that our study is concentrated in the Pune area. But the model is generic, and we think that it can be upscaled with minimal changes to other contexts as well, because this problem is a problem that's prevailing across the globe, and more so in the context of developing nations. So the citizen participation combined with policy, circular economy concepts, and emerging technology, we think can help to generate data which can facilitate better governance and an inclusive approach. Thank you.